Okay, actually, sorry, we're also going to need some Navi Shmuels.
You can't get enough Navi Shmuel each night.
I'll make sure those are Shmuels and not Yeshua Shofters. Good. Okay, so today's topic is something that's very big in the news today. What happened with Michael Brown and Officer Wilson in Ferguson, right? In Ferguson, Missouri. Not to be confused with the Alta Yid. You know the story of the Alta Yid, the old Jew? Right? The old Jew. So someone says to him, what's your name? He goes, my name? I'll tell you what my name is. My name is Shane Ferguson. Shane Ferguson? Yes, my name is Shane Ferguson. I said, why? How does an old Alta Yid, an old Jew coming from Europe, have the name Shane Ferguson? That's very unusual. And I came there and they asked me, what's your name? I got so confused, I forgot. I said, oh, Shane Ferguson. Shane Ferguson, I forgot. Right? They wrote down Shane Ferguson. That's my name. Okay, that has nothing to do with today's.
Told it very well.
Thank you.
Excuse me, but it's a very old joke.
Yes, I know. Older than I. Okay, so the question, well, the issue that is burning now, sometimes literally, is that the grand jury, right, acquitted the officer, and it will not be going to trial. Okay, so we're going to be examining this from a Torah source perspective, how we would view the actions taken by Officer Wilson based on the information that we have. I imagine a lot of the protesters are claiming that the information that was presented was a skewed view. But all we have is what was presented to them, and that's what we're going to be working with. Right? Certainly, I will say, certainly, I think there is a probably a valid concern amongst the black community that when they are approached in the street, there is often a sense of guilty until proven innocent when it comes to many situations, right? But I think to a degree we all do a certain amount of profiling. Okay. Now, according to the grand jury, Michael Brown, unarmed, made a full charge at Officer Wilson and tried to take his gun. Wilson could not get to his mace and shot Brown dead in self-defense. I want to thank Rabbi Micha Cohn, who puts together a lot of these halachic compilations, and I'm utilizing the sources that he has brought. Certainly made my job a lot easier. Okay, so assuming that he made a full charge at him, that's what we're working with. That's the working assumption, that Michael Brown made a full charge at Wilson. So let us look at our sources. I know the source, there's a one-page source sheet. Look to the second page. We're going to start with the Gemaras. Okay? The classic that we've mentioned before is the Mishnah in Sanhedrin, Ayin Beis Amud Aleph 72a. Haba b'machteret. Haba b'machteret, we have it both in the Hebrew and in the English. Haba b'machteret is a person who is coming through the tunnel. He is tunneling through. He's breaking his way into someone's house in order to steal. He's not coming to kill. He's coming simply to steal things from the house. Nidon al shem sofo. The Mishnah says he is judged based upon the account, based upon the end of where we see this going or where we potentially see this going. And now we'll explain to a degree. Hayabav machteret, if he's coming through this machteret, v'shiber et hachavit, and he broke a barrel along the way. Now we have a general rule: if a person is chayav mita for one act, he cannot also be obligated. A person is liable for a death penalty for one act. He will not also be liable for monetary payments, for damages. Classic example: I go to your house on Shabbos, and I'm there in your yard, and you have an amazing California orange tree there. And I'm overcome with desire, knowing that it's wrong, and I pull off an orange from your tree. With that one act, I have, first of all, broken the Sabbath, desecrated the Sabbath, capital punishment. Secondly, I owe you 49 cents for the orange that I've stolen from you. In such a case, being that this act brought about a capital punishment, even if it will not be applied, I am exempt from any of the monetary damage. Therefore, this person who has broken into the guy's house to steal, he's being judged on the count of the ultimate end, and we'll soon see more explain what that ultimate end is. Therefore, he is obligated with his life. If he owes his life for this act, then he will be exempt from any monetary payments. If he broke a barrel along the way, im yesh lo damin, literally based on the pasuk, if he has blood, meaning if he's not going to be held executable, he's not going to be held that this is a capital case, chayiv, he'll be obligated to pay for that barrel. Im ein lo damin, if he has no blood, meaning this is viewed as a capital case that he's liable for, then he will be exempt from the payment. Now the pasuk speaks about yesh lo damim, ein lo damim. He has blood, he does not have blood. And we say, is he coming to kill or is he not coming to kill? Now, in either way he's not coming to kill. So the Gemara explains, Amar Rava, Rava says, Maitama demachteret. What is the reasoning why this person who tunneled through is liable for a death penalty? Chazaka. We have an established principle. Ein adam mamid atzmo amamono. I the homeowner, I'm not going to stand idly as this person is coming and stealing my money. V'hai meimar amon. I was living in Israel. There were a rash of burglaries going on. So I would go to sleep with a metal pipe next to my bed in case I needed to defend my castle. And it was on a Friday night, so there were very few lights on. And I hear noises, and I wake up, and my vision without my glasses is exceptionally poor, weak. And I see up on my closet there where I had my shelves and I had my wallet and credit cards and checks and everything like that, I see a person with long hair over there by the closet. And I let out this, "Oh!" as I jumped up with this metal crowbar, and Natalie yells, "It's me! It's me!" She got up to nurse one of the kids and needed something. But I saw this Gemara, right? It was like this primordial yell as I jumped into action, grabbing this metal pipe. A person doesn't stand by idly when his stuff is being taken. And the person breaking in knows that. V'hai, and this person breaking in, Meimar Amar, he's saying, Iazilna, he understands, he realizes, if I'm going, there's a good chance, Kai Lapai. The homeowner is going to stand up against me. Velo Shavikli, and he's not going to let me do it. V'i Kai Lapai, so if he comes at me to protect his stuff, what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to take him down. Katil nale, I will kill him. That's part of the mindset over here. He's breaking into your house. He knows there's a good chance you're coming at him. And if you're coming at him, he's coming at you. The Torah says, someone comes to kill you, you can first kill him. Therefore, the pasuk in the Mishnah was talking about if he has blood. The Gemara says at another point, that's talking about a father. If it was a father breaking into the son's place, the father has no intention to kill the son. That's not going to happen. Then the son will not be able to turn against the father. That will not be justified. He has blood. But any case besides that, even a son breaking into a father's house, there, ein lo damim. So here we have the source of this din, that if someone is coming to kill you, then you are allowed to go first and kill them. We're going to see another Gemara. And yeah.
As far as intent though with Brown.
Let's wait.
Okay.
Now, let's go now to, everyone has a Navi in front of them, or there should be some Navis around. We're turning to Shmuel Bet, Perek Beis, second chapter. Get the page for us. Okay, let's go to page 209. Okay, to save time, we're going to be reading it in English. Okay, a very intense, verse 17, the bottom of page 209. A very intense battle ensued on that day, and Avner was defeated along with the men of Israel by the servants of David. This is during the breach between Shaul and David, and then Shaul's sons, and Avner was the head general of the men of Israel. Yoav was the head general of David, of the kingdom of Judah. Well, at that point, it was all one group. Right? The three sons of Zeruiah were there, Yoav, Avishai, and Asael. Asael was as swift on his feet as one of the deer that in the field. Asael pursued Avner. In Hebrew, Vayirdof Asael Achrei Avner. The classic term that we use for someone pursuing someone else is a rodef. Rodef is someone who's pursuing, trying to kill. Vayirdof Asael was pursuing Avner. Belonata, and he would not turn to the side, going to the right or to the left, from behind Avner. Avner turned around and said, "Is that you, Asael?" And he said, "It is I." Avner said to him, "Turn yourself away to your right, to your left. Capture one of the young soldiers. Take this weapon for yourself. Don't come after me. Not a good idea. I understand you have your honor at stake. Fair enough. Go after one of the other soldiers, take his weapon, and you can show how you were very valiant. But Asael would not agree to turn aside from after him. So Avner once again said, "Asael, turn aside from behind me. Why should I strike you to the ground? How can I show my face to your brother Yoav?" But Asael refused to turn aside. And Avner struck him with the back of his spear into his fifth rib. The spear came out of his back, and he fell there and died in his place. It happened that whoever came to the place where Asael had fallen and died stood still in shock. Yoav chased after Avner, the sun was setting, etc., etc., etc. Here we have a case, classic case of a rodef. And what happens? Avner tried to get this Asael to stop pursuing him. Ultimately, Avner kills Asael. Okay? We're going to soon see how this will play. There's another Gemara. Actually, let's go to the other Gemara. The Gemara has a concept that a rodef, the person who's being pursued, can kill the rodef. The rodef can be killed. Let me say it clearer. The rodef can be killed if that is the way to stop him. But what's called yachol lahatzilo be'echad me'evarav, if I can stop him by taking him out with one of his limbs, then that's what I'm obligated to do. Now, police are instructed to shoot for the body. Right? And often people say, well, why don't they just shoot him in the legs? Wouldn't that make more sense? Shoot him in the arms, shoot him in the legs. And the reason why they are not trained to do that is if you're going to shoot him in the legs or shoot him in the arm, there's an excellent chance that you will miss him. The chances of you stopping him by shooting him, by aiming for the legs or the arms, are greatly, greatly diminished. And an officer is not supposed to be, he needs to be taking precautions to save other lives, but he's not putting his life in danger unnecessarily. Therefore, at that point, they are trained to shoot for the body. Okay? So, the Gemara relates a story in Sanhedrin. Yoav ended up killing Avner. Yoav, the brother of Asael, ended up killing Avner as what's called the Goel Hadam, the redeemer of his blood. Yoav was brought to court, to Beit Din, about that. That's the bottom half, again, of that same page of the Gemara. At Yoav, they brought Yoav to the court. Daine, and they judged him. Amrle, had both the Hebrew and English, just want to follow wherever you're comfortable. My time Avner. Why did you kill Avner? Amar, he said, Goal Hadam Da'asal Havai. I was avenging the blood of Asael. They said to him, Asael Rodef Hava. Asael was a Rodef. Asael was pursuing him, trying to kill him. Amar le, he said to him, Hayalo lahatzilo be'echad me'evarav. Avner should have saved his own life by stopping Asael by taking out one of his limbs. Meaning he could have stopped Asael's pursuit without killing him, without taking his life. Amar lo yachile. Maybe he was not able to. Amar le, he said, Hashta bedofen chamishit kivein le. He was able to get him right by that fifth rib. Dichtiv, as it says, Vayakeu Avner ba'achori achanit el hachomesh. Right? He hit him right by that fifth rib. That's where Rav Yochanan explained. That's where the liver, that's where the gallbladder is. That's a place where you hit him there, you take him down. With one of the limbs, he was unable to do it. No, he could have stopped Asael's pursuit short of killing him, and therefore he was not justified in killing him, and therefore he is a murderer, and I acted as the Goel Hadam. Amalei Nezal Avner. So he said, okay, let's leave Avner aside, and then he went to other complaints that they had against Yoav. So here we see the concept of being able to take someone down without taking their life. Then you should not be taking their life. Now, let's apply for a moment. Then we'll see the Shulchan Aruch and we'll see the Rambam. Let's apply this concept as Rav Micha Khan brings the Or Zarua Chadashos brings an interesting point. The Gemara is discussing a person breaking into the house and to steal, knowing that it might turn violent. And therefore, if he's breaking in, knowing it might turn violent, he's ready to knowing this guy is going to defend his property with his life, so he's there ready and able to take that person's life. Therefore, he is a rodef.
Rabbi,
Yes?
day or night, does it matter?
No. Now, let's say we're not talking about a case of a rodef, where Asael was coming to kill Avner, and we're not talking about a case of a burglary. Rather, we're talking about a case where someone is coming at you to cause physical harm. If someone is coming at you to cause physical harm, then the same way that if someone is coming to steal my stuff, I'm going to stand up against that person. And it might turn mortal. And this person knows that. And therefore we judge it that he came planning on taking a life. When someone is coming at someone else physically, certainly the same would apply. I'm not going to stand there and allow this person to beat me. I'm going to give it back. And if we're saying that by a burglary, the Torah views it that by a burglary, this response might turn life-threatening, and this person has life-threatening in mind, he came with that in mind, certainly when someone comes to accost you physically, and they know that you're going to stand up against them, it might also turn life-threatening. And therefore, the din is that a person would be allowed, so that just like this chain reaction of events gives the homeowner permission to take this guy down, he doesn't need to go through all those steps and say, excuse me, that's my property. Oh yeah, we'll put it up. No, you put it up. All right. Oh, this is getting physical. Oh, this might be life-threatening. Okay, at that point, right, we don't need to wait for everything to unfold. Because of the propensity of this chain of events unfolding, this guy breaks into my house, I don't need to check if he's got a knife. I don't need to check if he's got a gun. Right? I can defend myself and my property, my family, with his life. Because of this chain of events that's going to follow. So the Or Zarua, the Or Zarua, not speaking about the Michael Brown case, but speaking in the 13th century, says that if someone accosts you physically, then that will have the same law as this person breaking into your house, that the chain of events can be projected, and you don't have to wait for the actual unfolding of step A to step B to step C, step D, but rather you can take control of the situation and take that person down. Okay? The same way this guy is no longer a petty criminal, but he's viewed as a murderer, so too, that will apply also to a physical attack. So coming back to Michael Brown, before we then get further into, we'll see the Shulchan Aruch and we'll see the Rav. Let's see the Shulchan Aruch on the first page of the notes. Shulchan Aruch is in Choshen Mishpat, Taf Chaf Hey, 425, number 1. Harodef achar chaveiro. I'm sorry that we don't have this in English. Okay, but I'm reading over here by the bold. Harodef achar chaveiro lahargo. One who pursues his friend in order to kill him. V'his hiru, and he warned him. And he's still running after him. Where do we see a warning? Where did we see a warning earlier? Avner, right? In Shmuel Bet, Avner is warning Asayel. V'hu rodef acharav. Afilo haya rodef katan. Even if this rodef is a minor. Harei yach kol Yisrael mitzuvin latzilo. Everyone is commanded to save the life of the person being pursued be'ever me'evarei harodef, with one of the limbs of the pursuer, then einam yicholim lechavein v'lo lahatzilo. If they are unable to aim to such a degree, v'lo lahatzilo, they're unable to save the life of that person being pursued, el im kein yahargu l'rodev, unless they actually will kill the pursuer, harei elu horgin oso. They are allowed to kill him, afal pi sha'adayin lo harag, even though he has not yet killed. The Ramah is very interesting. The Ramah is, so this is Rav Yosef Karo, right? And then the Ramahs of Moshe Isserles, who saw the Shulchan Aruch, had the Shulchan Aruch, and there was and made his gloss, his added comments. Often it's something that was not dealt with explicitly by the Shulchan Aruch. Very often he'll say the Shulchan Aruch is giving the custom of the Sfardim, and he'll give the custom of the Ashkenazim. But instead of giving two different Shulchan Aruchs, which would divide us into two different peoples, we have one Shulchan Aruch and we have the notes of the Ramah. So he says, Hagab, Habab Machteret Lignov, person who enters into this, tunnels in to steal. Gam Kain also Dino Karodev. His din, his status is like that of a rodev, like that which Shulchan Aruch discussed above. And if we know all he wants is money, and even if the homeowner will stand up against him, he will not kill that homeowner. Asur lahargo. Interesting. Someone who is putting the community in danger. He is engaged in forgeries. In a place where the kingdom is going to come down hard, not just on him, but on the entire community. Nido Dino Karodev. He has the status of a Rodev. Umutar Lamasro Lamalchut. And you are allowed to report him to the authorities and have him stopped before he endangers the entire community. Kamoshet Ba'el La'el Simin Shin Peichet. Okay, so now coming back. So according to the grand jury, Brown had made a full charge at an armed lone officer and had initiated a physical confrontation. If that is the case, again, people argue, but that's not. But that is the working premise that the grand jury went with. Now, according to then the reason that we had of the Or Zarua, right? If you're attacking a police officer, then you know he's going to be fighting back. And therefore, you know that this might get really, really life-threatening. And you know that he might have to take your life, in which case your intention is his life before my life. Therefore, we would say that once Brown knew that this might turn deadly, then he was prepared to kill, in which case he will have the din of a rodef, and the officer then is justified in acting in self-defense, even if that means killing him. Yes?
That is very logical as you've laid it out, but the premise seems wrong because the penalties for killing a police officer are so high. I do not think it's a valid logic to assume that maybe Brown just wanted to overwhelm him to escape and stop the original person.
Maybe. If your son was a police officer, would you say, follow that maybe? Maybe he just wanted to overwhelm you, but was not going to do anything bad. And he was not going to think you were going to shoot, and he was not going to kill you. Do you think that should be what we should tell the officers? You're being attacked by a large man. Maybe he's not going to kill you. Therefore, allow yourself to be overwhelmed. Be at his mercy.
Well, the grand jury report doesn't say he had pulled a gun, for example. So.
We're not saying he pulled a gun. No one's saying he pulled a gun. I'm not saying he pulled a gun
so
either.
what was the means with an armed officer who had the weapon
Yes,
for Brown to
but
kill
once
the armed officer?
once I'm overwhelmed, then who has the weapon? According to the grand jury, he was going for the gun.
He had a dangerous weapon.
Right?
Cigar.
Again, right? He made a full charge and tried to take his gun.
Oh, okay.
Okay? I can't imagine anyone in their right mind saying that proper police procedure and training should be, we've got to change our training procedure. And we should say if someone unarmed is lunging at you, trying to take your gun, you should not react. You should let that happen, be overwhelmed, and chances are,
I think the assumption of that he's trying to kill you, though, it should be going back to the Rodave status where the person is not, and that you just try and incapacitate them.
okay.
I
So
think that's a
one second,
wrong
one second. Okay. So we're establishing now that it seems according to Torah law, again, I wasn't there, but if according to what the grand jury reached was that this fellow, this young man, lunged for the officer trying to take his gun, it's very clear that he has the din of a rodef.
Yeah.
Now, the din of a rodef is, if necessary, you take his life, but if you can stop it short of that,
Like taser.
then you must. Right? Now, actually, I mentioned at the very beginning when we started, Wilson cannot get to his mace. So therefore, again, according to the grand jury head, right, there were other means that he could have employed, which he was unable to employ, right, and shot Brown dead in self-defense. Let's go now to the last of the sources we have, both in Hebrew and English, and that's on the bottom of the first page, and that is the Rambam. Maimonides' Laws of Murder, chapter 13, halacha 1. Kol hayachol hatzil be'ever me'evarav. Anyone who's able to save with one of the person's limbs. V'lo tarach b'kach. And he didn't bother. Elihitzil b'nafsho shel rodef. But rather, he saved himself by taking the person's life. So I had my pepper spray, I had my mace, I had my taser, I had many alternate ways of stopping this guy, but instead I pulled out my shotgun and I killed the fellow. Harei zeh shofech damim. Such a person is a blood spiller. V'chayav mita. And he's chayav mita. He, the pursuant who could have stopped the guy and didn't stop the guy with alternative means, killed him. However, he's chayav misa, he's obligated in a death penalty. Right, but the Beit Din will not kill him.
They can't figure
And
out.
why that is interesting. If we're saying that, then why do we say then that is the case? So again, this is from Rav Micha Cohen. He brings, the Torah asks, if it is considered murder, then why shouldn't the Beis Din punish him? And the Chavos Yair suggests that the Beit Din cannot punish because we can never be sure if lethal force was completely unnecessary or not. Right? When things are unfolding at that pace, when things unravel as they do, and the situation goes out of control, then you can never be sure if lethal force was completely unnecessary. Now, according to one of the opinions, the Rambam, who says that is considered murder, that unnecessary lethal force, the Rambam says is murder, that's only applying to, look at the case that he spoke about over here. Kol hayachol hatzil be'eva me'evarav. He says this is not talking about when the guy is pursuing me. So when the guy is pursuing you. Now I too, not just the person who's being pursued, anyone is allowed to save that person's life by taking the life of the person who is the rodef, who is pursuing. So when it comes to someone else, that's where we say, hey, you've got to weigh it, you've got to be sure, and if you were able to stop him, was sure of taking his life, you had to, and if you didn't, you're a murderer, Basin won't execute you, but you're a murderer. That's all talking about the onlooker. However, the pursuant, the victim himself, will never be called a murderer. Will never be called a murderer, probably because, right, in the state of panic that one is in when they are being pursued by someone trying to kill them, they're not expected to be able to draw these hairline decisions and say, well, I think I could, right? You stop him at all costs. Once again, in this case, according to the information the grand jury had, that he was made a full charge, tried to take his gun, even if we'll say that perhaps he could have stopped him, though it seems this fellow was quite a large individual, right? But even if we'll say that he could have stopped him short of taking his life, a Beit Din will not act on that because we have no way of knowing that. And certainly, right, what adds is when we're talking about the person himself, they're not expected to be able to draw those lines, though you might argue that a police officer who's trained for that might be obligated to draw those lines, but even if we'll say that he is, but he cannot be prosecuted on this because we have no way of knowing, was there a way that it could have not escalated to the point that it did escalate to.
The officer knows that he had a gun or no?
Brown did not have a gun.
But did the officer know this?
I don't know.
They would assume
Yeah, it
they're
matters.
Yeah.
Why?
Of course it matters.
Why would they
Yeah.
assume that they aren't?
Well, that's more of a reason to be able to use my gun if the person might be armed.
An officer is always going to assume that if somebody is coming at them
They got a
with
weapon
legal
of some
intent,
kind.
that they will have a weapon.
Yep.
Okay,
Whether
so
they're
my,
hands, a pipe, a gun, or a knife,
Yeah.
they will always assume they have a
Right.
weapon.
Yep.
So the full circle of laws of violence and capital and rodef, it seems the laws for Beit Din are much more circumspect and much more lenient on the person guilty of blood, and that they're required to
On the
be
victim.
two witnesses.
On the victim. But in case of a person who is attacked.
No, I'm talking about all, like,
Okay,
say
so
someone
let's
violates-
just summarize here.
someone
So in a
violates
case
Shabbos.
of someone who is attacked and used lethal force, even if it might not have been necessary, we are very lenient of that person
Right,
who was
that I get.
attacked.
But on the first two categories, so someone violates Shabbos, and the Beit Din still has to have two witnesses before they would ever act.
Okay?
So that's very circumspect and very.
For the Beit Din to kill somebody, that is very, very rare. The Mishnah says
Right.
a Beit Din killed once in 7 years was considered murderous.
Then for the next
But
case of.
here we're talking about a person who is being attacked.
Right,
We're not talking
then
about a
for the
Beit
next
Din.
case of stand your ground, where you're saying the propensity of this chain of events, then it's automatically assumed. It seems like that's much stricter on the rodef, on the attacker.
Yes,
And
that is correct.
not as circumspect. It seems like there's an inconsistency
Not
there.
inconsistency. There's Beis Din deciding what to do, and there's a person who's being attacked. Person being attacked, we're not going to say very, very lenient, right? If the Beis Din acquits the guy, he's not going to kill the Beis Din. If this guy acquits the guy, he's going to kill him. He's coming at you, right? So it's a very, very, very different situation. Yeah.
Did you say that the witness to the attack is also obligated to?
If I see someone trying to kill someone else, I've got to save that person, even if it means taking the life of the person trying to kill that person. Yeah. Yeah. This person is a rodef, ain lo dam. Anyone can take him out.
Someone's coming after you, we're obligated, obviously, to
Please.
take that person out.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm counting on you guys.
Wasn't the extenuating circumstance, he just robbed a store or something?
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I don't know.
Cigar.
Yeah. But even if that were the case, the person robbed is not a reason police to shoot the guy. Right? But, right, so I don't know. I don't know if that would be material, really. Right? But the issue here is he came, attacked the officer, lunged for the gun. The officer is given a lot of the pursuee, pursuant and pursuee.
Pursuees, the Chinese.
Okay. The pursuer and the pursuee. The pursuee is given a lot of leeway. Okay, let's bench now so that those who, yeah.
The police, you get pulled over,